everyone, and welcome to another Patreon exclusive monthly update. Now, ideally this would have gone up at the beginning of the month, but I was not very on top of things this month, and it has somehow slipped away from me, and now we are 3 weeks in and it is almost over. And I have no idea how that happened. Actually, I do. It has a little something to do with the robe a la Francaise that I've been working on. That project is now done. I finished it up about a week ago, and I got the video about it edited and posted, and I'm very relieved to have that project done. Considering how large that project was, it went remarkably well. I think the only other things I've made that are anywhere near that level of complexity would be my 1640s orange ensemble or the Tudor costume that I made a few years back. And both of those I thought were incompletable at points and took me many months and had many hiccups along the way. And by comparison, the robe a la Francaise was an absolute breeze. Nothing really went wrong with it, and though it was challenging to draft, my first mock-up fit almost perfectly, and I barely had to make any alterations to the dress along the way. So all things considered, I am ecstatic with how that project went. However, it was so large and the work on it was so repetitive that it was kind of frustrating to work on, even though it wasn't super difficult. And whenever I came upstairs, I felt compelled to work on it because it took up pretty much all of the space behind me. Which meant work on other things didn't really get done, which is kind of disappointing because I had a lot of plans for February. But now that that project is packed away, I have been able to work a little bit on some passion projects of mine, as well as some paid work and sewing through the decades, as you might be able to tell by what's behind me. I've compiled a relatively long list, and I wanted to go through what projects I'd like to work on, what projects I want to work on in the future, what videos I filmed, what's coming up, and all of that good stuff. Now, some of this might end up being kind of repetitive because I am trying to monthly vlog. So if any of this is repetitive, then I apologize, but you're getting early access to all of this information, so that's fun. So as far as projects go, I'm actually going to take you around my sewing room and show you into all of my work in progress bins, so then you'll get more of an idea of what I want to work on, because everything, I think, on my list are currently in some stage of progress, which is really exciting because that has not been the case for the last couple of updates that I've done. So on my list, I have an 1820s white Spencer and plaid skirt, and that is something that I have in progress. So I got the Spencer drafted yesterday, and a Spencer is kind of like a mixture between a blouse and a jacket that were worn over dresses or worn over the upper half of the body and paired with a matching skirt. And they were popular in the Regency period into the 1820s and 1830s. And they're quite, I think, well known for their elaborate piping work that was used on them. So the one that I'm making actually is relatively simple by comparison. It's more of a blouse than it is a Spencer, but it combines elements of both because they're really incredibly difficult to research for the 1820s. So it's going to have pleats going diagonally across the bodice and then have a placket closure down the front. It's going to have puff sleeves at the top that are very fitted, and I'm going to try and do some sort of interesting piping kind of design within the sleeve. So that'll be fun or torturous depending on how well it behaves. And then I also want to continue work on the Vivian Deer project. Haven't made any progress with that, but it is taking up a very large bin and a lot of my work in progress space. So I would like to move forward and finally get the jacket draped for that. I draped 3 projects yesterday, or 3 bodices yesterday, and I feel like I finally got some of my draping mojo back, so maybe I can take that on next. I'm also working on an 1830s themed project, which I'm being paid to make and design, and will be shipped off to a company in New York City for some reason that I probably can't disclose right now, but you might be able to guess if you're clever. Then I have an 1830s riding costume I want to get started on. That project and the 1820s Spencer and plaid skirt are both things that were featured in my 1830s sketching / designing video. I also really wanted to get started on the green archery project for that video, but I decided against it because I feel like these are more weather appropriate right now. And for that project, I'm going to play around with pad stitching and a whole bunch of tailoring techniques I've never done before. So I've actually been trying to read through the Authentic Victorian Dressmaking Techniques book, and I think this is available for free online if you search around for it. And this book is dense. This is not an easy or fun book to read, but has a lot of really valuable information about how garments were constructed in the Victorian era, which applies to how garments were constructed throughout pretty much the entire 19th century. So they go through pad stitching and canvas layers and lining and how everything would be done, and it's a really, really valuable resource, but oh boy is it dull. So I'm slowly making my way through that, or at least through the chapter devoted for tailoring, because I really know nothing about it. And I'd hoped to film the riding costume as a making of project, but I really don't know enough about tailoring for me to feel comfortable doing that, and I don't really want the quantity of feedback from people who know more about tailoring than me. Not because that feedback isn't valuable, but just I'm trying something new and it's already difficult trying something new and putting yourself out there by sharing photos of the progress, but filming an entire video about it too. I don't know, I think it might just end up being discouraging for me. So I'll try and show that in my monthly vlog as well as progress photos over on Instagram, but there probably won't be a video devoted to that. And then I'm also working on an 1890s Eton jacket. I've got the design for that here, and I showed this in a previous video, though I can't remember which one. So it consists of a relatively fitted skirt with these overlapping details on the back of the jacket as well as the hem of the skirt, and then it flares out. And it's a lot more fitted than garments from the 1890s, so it probably fits into the very end of the 1890s, like 1897. Whereas this book, which I've been using as a major reference, which is called The Keystone Jacket and Dress Cutter, an 1895 guide to women's tailoring, has garments with much larger sleeves, but it's still been a really good resource for draping the jacket and figuring out the piecing and the shaping of those. So this book, along with this book, that's the wrong way, this book, are hopefully gonna help me piece that jacket together and have it be a little bit more professionally made than similar things I've made in the past, like my 1890s plaid walking suit, which I still love dearly but wasn't really assembled in a historical manner and didn't have a lot of tailoring elements to it because I didn't really know those elements at the time I constructed it. So I'm excited about that project, and I will show you the fabrics that I have for that. And once again, I got that draped yesterday, or at least I draped the bodice of the jacket, which is probably the piece I'm going to make first. I'm still debating about whether or not I need to make a new petticoat for the skirt before I get around to draping that. So the other project that I would really like to work on this month is the Tudor project that I've hinted at a couple times. This featured very heavily in the Vlogmas video that I filmed and still have not posted. It's based off of a pattern in Janet Arnold's first book. Then the skirt was based off of some fashion plates and is made out of velvet and a home decor fabric that I've had in my stash for ages. And I'm really excited about that project, but it requires so much hand sewing. It's going to be really tedious to get the skirt finished. But I'm going to make an effort to pull it back out because recently I have been exhausted. I don't know if it's medication or seasons or what the deal is. It could also have something to do with the fact that coffee has been making me sick, so I'm trying to switch over to tea. And tea doesn't have nearly as much caffeine, and it also doesn't taste nearly as nice. Actually, that's not true because I really hate the taste of coffee, but at least coffee tastes like something. Tea just tastes like bland, leafy water, and I'm not that into it, but I'm really trying because coffee makes me want to throw up, and that's not good either. But anyway, I've been really tired, and a lot of the projects I'm currently working on are things that I have to film or vlog or send to people who are going to look over every single stitch or get started on, and they require a decent amount of mental and physical energy, which I don't always have. So the good thing about the Tudor project, at least for the skirt, is that that is all hand sewing. So I'm hoping when I'm feeling down, instead of having a nap, I'm going to come up here and try and force myself to do some hand sewing. Turn on some loud music, and hopefully that is something I can accomplish even if I'm not feeling my best. I'll still be able to be productive. And that's actually why I decided to start on the 1820s Spencer and skirt instead of the archery costume, because all of the ruffles for the skirt are going to be hemmed by hand and gathered by hand. So that's a project that I can sit down and do in front of the TV, and hopefully it will help me in those times of tiredness as well. And then there are two more projects on this list. One of them I have cut out. It is based on this Anne Adams pattern, and I'm making this variation. I love this pattern. I think it is so cute, and the shaping of it reminded me of a jellyfish, because of course it did. So I bought this specifically to be used with a Tula Pink fabric, which is covered in jellyfish. It's from the Aquatics collection that I also used for 1950s dress, but it's a much larger print, and I'm so looking forward to making this. So I've got that all cut out and set aside, and I will show you my progress on it. Then the last thing on my list is an 1870s spring costume. So I went to Michael's the other day for reasons I will talk about in a moment, and I decided to get a few bundles of their spring flowers because they were really pretty and they were quite interesting the way they were made. They'd used a Dupioni-ish looking fabric for the petals instead of the more realistic, flat, airbrushed fabric. So it looked like they had been made by hand out of fabric, which really appealed to me because historically on dresses, all the flowers would either be dried real flowers or they would be made out of ribbon or fabric by hand. And that's really tedious when you're making a large quantity of them for a dress, which is why I've never done it before. But these I thought were quite convincing, so I decided to pick up a few little bunches that I could use for a hat. And then I came home and I came across this fashion plate. Isn't it glorious? And I was immediately reminded of a project that I wanted to make a few years back, and I actually bought fabric for. And it was based off of an example in this book, which is called Victorian Fashions and Costumes from Harper's Bazaar. And I actually looked through this book before filming this video, and I could not find the image that originally inspired me anywhere, but it was a bustle dress with a long train, and it was absolutely covered in flowers. And I never ended up making that because I couldn't find enough flowers in my price range that matched the fabric I originally purchased. But the flowers I purchased from Michaels the day prior happened to perfectly match to fabric within my stash. And at that point in time, all of the flowers were 70% off at Michaels, so I decided to go back and buy a whole bunch more. And I'm going to make something kind of inspired off of some of the fashion plates in this book, as well as that original fashion plate that I showed. And I did have to spend $50 on flowers, but all the fabric's in my stash, so I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'm not going to be making that for a while because I think I have to make a new corset and a new petticoat and a new hoop skirt, and I'm going to have to do quite a bit of research for those because unfortunately this is like the one decade of fashion that isn't covered in Nora Waugh's Corsets and Crinolines book. So there might be some passable patterns in here, or at least some useful information, but I think I'm going to have to do a lot of figuring out for that myself. And hopefully I'll film some of the process, though it might be kind of just winging it because I really don't know entirely what I'm going to do for that. But that's something that I'm excited about when it does come time. On top of having to make a lot of foundations for that, it's also going to be another project that takes up my entire sewing room because it's going to have such a large understructure as well as such a large train. So I'm definitely holding off on that for a while, but I would like to start the researching process for that because that is going to be such a time-consuming project that I want to make sure that I make it properly. I also want to mention that last month I had a project I made and shipped off to that previously mentioned place in New York City. So that was fun. That was a beautiful taffeta 1840s dress and a matching bonnet, and I'm really pleased with how those turned out. I got it photographed and I got photos of that sent off today as well, so hopefully I'll be able to post those somewhere soon. And then I also did a whole bunch of organizing. So I just decided out of nowhere that I wanted to get my sewing room sorted. So I will show you the changes that I've made. But I reorganized all of my buttons. I reorganized all of my lace. I did a little bit of fabric reorganization, and I also moved a whole bunch of stuff out from underneath this table up to the top shelves on my closet. So now a lot of my project bins have freed up, and I don't have to store as many things in piles, which has been really, really great and made me feel like I can be a lot more productive because I just have a lot more space to put things. As far as filming goes, I filmed the beret tutorial, and hopefully that will be going up soon. I'm also feeling really inspired about my Venturing into Vintage series again, so I think I'm going to try and film the styling video for that, as well as some of the other suggestions that you guys left in the comments of the video where I talked about that. And speaking of videos, I haven't been posting them on Patreon. I've been posting them like an hour before I finish editing them, so I haven't been able to do early access. But I posted 3 or 4 videos this month, so they will all be linked in the coordinating Patreon page, and I'm really pleased with those videos, so you should definitely check them out. 2 of them are vlog style videos, one of which focuses on 1930s dresses for Valentine's Day. The other is a plaid 2-piece vest and skirt set, and I have credits for Patreon in both of those videos. So if you're wondering where those credits were, they were in those videos. And I also posted the video about my Robella front face, which I'm really, really pleased with. So please go watch that. That took a long time, but I think it turned out really, really well. And I'm excited to feature that dress in more videos in the future. Speaking of Patreon, $36 rewards should be going out this week, and $16 rewards went out last week. If you haven't received a previous month reward that you were signed up for, then please let me know, and I will do my best to get it sorted. Also on Patreon, I'm going to be doing more polls. I had so much fun with the polls last month and picking the bonus projects that you guys voted on. So the winners ended up being something based off of my ancestors and a petticoat slash chemise slash corset foundation special. So I actually took those out of the running because they were such overwhelming winners. So those are something I'm going to do this year for sure, just on my own sort of timeline. And then the other things that won was an 18th century Rococo gown in a mint color, and a historically accurate Disney princess dress. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have additional polls to let you guys pick which princess you think I should do, and then I will have a few different outfit options for that princess. And then for the Rococo project, I'm going to pick a few different fashion plates as inspiration, and I'll let you guys vote on those as well. Just a heads up, in the case of the Disney poll, I think I'm going to take Mulan and Moana and Tiana out of the running. Even though they're beautiful and they have some of the best songs and best dresses and best movies, I think I'm going to leave those to people who physically embody those characters better, and I'm just going to stay in my very, very pale lane. Not saying that anyone else should do that, or if anything against anyone who cosplays anyone just because they like the characters or the costumes, but that's what I decided to do in this case. And I'm also going to do a poll for the 1960s project. So this is going to be the main Sewing Through the Decades project. I kind of regret making this because I've realized it's not going to be very flattering on me, but I'm deep in now. And then the bonus project was supposed to be a culotte set, and I made the mock-up for that, and you will see a mock-up vlog about it soon because I also filmed that. And I'm excited to make that at some point, but not when it is 30 degrees out. So I think I'm going to postpone that bonus project until summer. And in the meantime, I'm going to make a cute little 1960s dress that I could pair with a cardigan. So there will be a poll up on Patreon so you can vote for which one of these patterns you think I should follow, and also which fabric you think I should use for it, because I've got a couple options for that as well. So I'm realizing that the lighting is getting even worse here, though it started off pretty bad to begin with. So I'm going to begin the sewing room tour of sorts and show you everything that I am up to. Let's get to that. So this is the sewing room in its current state, and I will just pick a corner and then we can go from there. So I'm going to pick this corner, specifically underneath the desk. So this isn't particularly pretty right now, but these are the two fabrics that I have for that 1870s project that just so happen to match the flowers from Michaels perfectly. And I posted a photo of this with the flowers on Instagram so you can see it in all its glory. But I have about 10 yards of both these fabrics, so one will probably be the main fabric and then the other will be for trims or ruffles or contrasting or something. And I haven't decided which is going to be the primary fabric yet, but I think they're both beautiful. Whichever one I don't use for this project, I will save for something 18th century, I think. There's my receipt from all the flowers from Michaels, which reminds me that I've been doing a lot of accounting this month too. That's been a super fun thing that you have to do at the beginning of the new year. I also finished organizing all of the buttons that my great aunt gave me. It might not sound like a big deal, but this has been a huge project and this has been in progress for like 6 months. I've had just boxes and boxes of buttons sitting outside of my sewing room for ages. She gave me so many and none of them were organized, and I'm very, very grateful to have them. But it was a huge project going through all of them and picking out which ones were matching and getting rid of broken ones and cleaning ones, and it was an undertaking. These are the ones I have larger quantities of, and I also organized a lot of my own buttons that I purchased into these, so now everything is together. This is the bin for the 1860s project that I currently have in progress. I realized, as I said, that this is not going to be super flattering on me, but hopefully I can get away with wearing it with a belt. I've also realized that this fabric is basically evil. It frays so badly. It's such a loose weave and it's just been terrible to work with because on top of being incredibly loosely woven and fraying horribly, it's also really easy to catch the threads with my needle, and then it puckers up almost like silk. And it's very thick, so the cuffs are basically 1/4 inch thick and it's just a mess. So let's just hope that it turns out okay. If it doesn't, then I'm going to follow the same pattern, but I'm going to make a different view of it. I'm going to make a jumper style dress that flares out a little bit more and a matching blouse to go underneath it. So that is my backup plan if this turns out horribly, and if I end up doing that, then I will definitely film it. These are the prints for this month's Patreon. I also finally ordered prints of Coatmas stuff. I'm sorry it took so long. So the reward from December that I never shipped out will go out in February. Finally, along with this month's rewards. This is my little ship that I purchased in Lancaster and I found while I was cleaning up, and I may have accidentally, okay, it wasn't an accident, but I may have bought fabric to go with that ship so I can make something to wear with, and I'm very, very excited about it, and I will show you a swatch of it at the end of this video. These are the two 1960s patterns that I'm going to let you guys pick between. At least I think I'm going to let you pick between it. I'm actually really partial to this design, and I really like Butterick patterns. I've never followed a vintage Simplicity pattern. In fact, I've only followed one Simplicity pattern ever because I had a non-compete with McCall's. I might still have a non-compete with McCall's. I'm not sure, but this project is only going to be shown on Patreon, so I don't feel like I'm really advertising for it, so it should be okay. But those are the two different patterns, and then these are the two different fabrics. So this one I picked up in Lancaster. I really like this fabric. It's very 1960s to me. It's got this brownish beigeish base and then all of these cute little flowers on top of it. I have a lot of accessories that will go really nicely with this, and I think it would be adorable. And then this one is a tulip pink fabric, and it is covered with these, I don't know, almost 70s-ish looking flowers, and that also has chipmunks on it, which makes it adorable. Once again, I have a lot of accessories that would go well with this, and I really don't have a preference between these two fabrics. I like both of them for a lot of different reasons, so I think it makes a good poll over on Patreon. That reminds me, I totally forgot to show you, but this is the pattern that I mentioned earlier that I'm going to turn into a jellyfish dress, and this will be shown in my February vlog. And I don't have a lot of this fabric left to show you, but it is a tulip pink fabric, and it's covered with jellyfish. It's a really fun print, and it's got really vibrant kind of orangey-ish accents, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. These are most of the patterns that I mentioned drafting the other day. I got them all transferred to paper, but I haven't cut them out yet, and I haven't made mock-ups, so that's going to be a task for this evening. This is the sketch for the late 1890s project that I mentioned. It looks quite similar to the plaid walking suit I made, but it's going to be pretty different, and I would really like to use a dotted netting underneath this to create the shirt waist. And then this is the book that I mentioned having all of those fun references in it. And this is a really great book. You can get it pretty affordably on Amazon, and it's just got so many designs from Harper's Bazaar. It's really inspiring. And then that is the other tailoring book. I got this for Christmas, which you'd know if I ever posted that Vlogmas video. And I'm hoping that this is going to help me understand the pad stitching and the collar making process a little bit better, because that's still something pretty foreign to me. Now up here we have the project that I'm currently remaking, and I'm remaking it out of this cotton fabric. I picked this up in Lancaster, and I'm going to be pairing this with a dotted black netting and the same lace that I actually used on this original dress, because I have quite a bit more of that lace around. So I'm trying to make it to be an identical replica in everything aside from fabric and construction method, because the first dress was made in 2 days and it was pretty haphazardly put together. So I'm trying to rectify that and make the entire construction process just make a little bit more sense this time around. Now if you look behind me, so I realize this is horribly cluttered, but originally this bin was full of fake flowers, and the other day I emptied that out and I put all my fake flowers up there because they're not something that I reach for particularly often. And then in here I put all of my, not abandoned works in progress, but projects that are on a hiatus. So for the past 2 years, maybe even 3 years, my beetle wing project has been taking up a bin underneath my sewing table. And it's been incredibly easy to access, but I have not accessed it because I've not worked on it. There have been a few other projects like that too. So I just decided that I would put them all up high, and then when I want to revisit them, I can. They're not taking up prime space for things I'm actively working on, because I was forcing all my works in progress to be in these temporary bins and taking up table space around my sewing room, and it was driving me crazy. So I finally sorted that out. So now in here I have the fabrics for the Spencer and the skirt, and I cut out all of the ruffles for the skirt, just need to be ironed, and then I can get to hemming them. And then this is just the raw material for the jacket. And here I have the fabric for the riding costume from the 1830s, and again, nothing else is really in here because I haven't made too much progress on that, but I am excited to get working on it. The Indier project, so the skirt is hanging up, but I have the pants in here and all of the extra fabric for this. As you can see, it is a little bit dusty because I haven't worked on this recently, so I do need to get back to work on it. And then here is the Elizabethan project. So this is the skirt. Now this is fabric I've left over from the skirt. The skirt is in there somewhere, and I'm definitely going to get it out and probably start doing some hand sewing on that tonight. Then down here I have the giant bag of flowers that I purchased from Michaels. It doesn't look that giant, but there are a lot of flowers in there, and those are going to be used for that 1870s project. Over here I have some temporary storage, which hopefully won't be staying. And then up here I have the fabric for the Eton jacket. It's a really, really wonderful silk suiting, and I think I might actually just make the jacket and the top part of the skirt out of this. And then I'm going to have this velvet ribbon serve as bands and detailing on it. And then I might make the flared portion of the skirt out of velvet, because I have so much black velvet, and I really don't like working with velvet very much anymore. So I'd be quite eager to use some of that up. And I think if I flatline it, then I can avoid the frustration of working with velvet and add a lot of body to the hem, which would be nice. So now we have my newly reorganized shelves, and I realize they still look super cluttered, but oh my gosh, what a difference. So I used to have a few shelves devoted entirely to folded fabric, but with my temporary storage there and my temporary storage there and moving a ton of fabric up here, I was able to mostly eliminate that and reclaim some space for my lace collection. So previously my lace collection was in this box, and then a whole bunch of other boxes scattered around the sewing room of various different sizes. But I decided that I wanted to organize it all onto bolts so I could see all of it. And originally I wanted all of this to be in one drawer, but I quickly realized it wouldn't all fit in one drawer, and it would actually be really difficult to go through it because I wouldn't be able to take it out and compare it to fabrics in my sewing room. So I decided that I would sort them all by type of lace and color, and I would add them, and I would put them all on bolts. So these bolts are just canvas boards from Blick's Art Supplies, and I ordered 144 of them, and I have 4 of them left. So I used up a whole bunch of these, but I'm really, really happy with how it looks. I can see everything now, and I'm just so so pleased with this because lace was something where I really didn't know what I had since so much of it has been given to me over the years. Totally realized that's a first world problem, but it was a problem I was having nonetheless. So that is now nicely organized. I got another 4 containers down there and then just some bolts. And down here I have my buttons. So the larger quantities of buttons went into those bins as you saw. And I have a drawer in my pattern cabinet full of random buttons that are sorted by size and type. But for any buttons that I have multiples of or buttons that are on cards, I put them into binders. All the buttons got stapled into binders that are sorted by color. And I don't like how this looks as much as my button box. I really miss the button box. But again, it is so much easier to see everything that I have here. So I think this is a much, much better method. And now these shelves look tidier than they have in a very long time, even though they're still a little bit cluttered. And then the last alteration I made was hanging this picture. So I purchased this in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and it's been hanging around ever since. And I finally got around to putting it up, and I think it looks really, really cute. It matches my other bits of artwork quite well. Oh, and by rearranging things, I managed to free up this drawer. Now I have medium-sized rolls of paper in here as well as some random stuff. So this probably isn't a permanent solution, but I'm glad to have those things tucked away for now. Also, I think I forgot to mention this, but this project is going to be filmed. I'm going to do the skirt off camera because it's pretty boring and very time consuming, but I will film the entire process of making the jacket, and that's going to be the next historical thing featured on my channel, I think, unless I get some sort of burst of inspiration and make a really simple Regency gown or a kind of smaller 2-day project that I can film more easily. So as I said, I would show you my fabric purchases. I've actually made 2 orders from Fabric Mart this month. I know that's really bad, but one of them was to order netting for that project, for a project I'm being paid to make, which means in my eyes it is fine. And actually during that order, I also ordered some double-faced satin. I purchased a yard of that satin just to test out some dye swatches on, and it was beautiful. It was such a nice weight. I was really, really impressed by it. And they ended up restocking in a gray color, so I actually bought it with this pattern in mind. So this is for a 1940s wedding dress, and I thought it might be kind of cool to make that out of a gray tone fabric and then use, I don't know, some white lace on it. But I don't know if since it's a wedding dress it should really be a pale blushy color or white, and making it out of gray is kind of blasphemous. And if that's the case, then I guess I can use the gray for facing something or for lining something or just adding volume or something. So it won't go wasted. It was really cheap. It was like $3 a yard, but that's what I purchased that in mind for. And then I made another order of things that I didn't need. So as I said, when I was cleaning up, I came across that ship, but I came across this, and it was $8 a yard because it was on sale and they were doing a half-price shipping day, and it is the exact colors of the ship. So it is a dark navy blue and it is a tan color, and I think this would just be perfect for an 18th century costume to go with that ship hat. And I worked with this fabric before. I used it for my Halloween project in a brown and orange variant, and I love how that turned out. So I decided that I would order 8 or 9 yards of that. And then I also purchased some more of the linen that I used for my 1940s romper. They restocked it in blue, and I loved working with that fabric so much that I just wanted to buy more of it. And that was the first print they'd restocked that I actually liked in that weight. And then I ordered 2 yards of lemony colored denim because I want to make a pair of 1940 shorts out of it. I thought it would look really, really nice with this fabric as well as this fabric or this fabric. I got lots of fabrics for blouses. It would look really nice with yellow. So I thought that was a good thing to buy as well. And I actually have a whole bunch of summery projects I'm already feeling excited about that I want to order fabric for, like a chambray to go with a blouse made out of this bunny fabric, but I managed to resist. So I was bad, but I wasn't horrible. And then my other purchases were stuff for tailoring projects. So I ordered some horsehair canvas, and I also, this is exciting, finally found a place that stocks large quantities of hooks and bars in standard sizes. So now I have a whole bunch of hooks and bars, and I don't have to continually buy tiny packets from Joann's. So those have been my main purchases for the month, along with the organization supplies for this shelf, because I didn't have any of these bins before I started or any of the bolts, but I'm mostly happy with my purchases, and I'm excited to see what the rest of this month will include. That's the word I'm looking for. So thank you so much for watching this rambling mess. I don't know how much you got out of it, but I hope it was a nice little peek into my month. I'd be curious how your month is going and what you're working on, and I'll talk to all of you guys with a more structured Patreon exclusive video very, very soon, because there will be another 2 Patreon exclusive videos coming out before the end of the month, I promise. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Gwen says bye too. And Elsa says goodbye too. And Gwen says goodbye again. Everyone's just so talkative today, aren't they? Goodbye for real now.